Hi. At my photography workshops, I often see that my fellow photographers set Adobe RGB as color space because they were told that this is the color space that covers more colors and this is the color space they should use for printing. So in this video, I am going to smash this myth. We will look at the difference between Adobe RGB and sRGB color spaces, what web platforms, monitors and printers actually use, and most importantly, what we as photographers should care about. And in the end of the video, I will show you how you can check on your computer screen whether your print is going to have the same colors that you really want to have. Let's start what is not a color space. So color space is not the same as color depth. For JPEG images, color depth is always 8-bit, which means each pixel can have values between 0 and 255 in the red, green and blue channels. But with RAW files, they are often 12, 14 bits, which means they can have more than 16,000 values in the red, green and blue channels, so they can cover more shades and tones. So what is a color space? Well, basically it's just a systematically defined set of colors. Just like painters have a physical paint palette, digital images also use precisely defined sets of colors. That system is what we call a color space. You have probably heard about Pantone. Pantone as an organization created unique physical pigments and labeled them with names and numbers. So color spaces are very similar to this, except that they are mathematically defined and there's a smooth transition between these colors. Now let's get into the color spaces. Let's start with the most important one, the CIE, not CIA, CIE XYZ 1931 color space. This was created in 1931 and this covers all the colors that the human eye can perceive. And it's very important that this is all the colors that the human eye can perceive. So it would be different for a bee or a cat or a dog because their eyes are differently built. The CIE chromaticity diagram would be a 3D model, but to make it much more easier to grasp, we made a two-dimensional section of it with a set brightness value, because brightness would be the third axis. So along the black outline you will find pure spectral colors. Basically these are the colors of the rainbow from red to violet. For example, this point on the black line represents a pure 600 nanometer wavelength light. Now let's ignore the fact that your monitor and screen cannot actually produce a pure 600 nanometer light, but I will get to that very shortly. On this diagram, if you connect any two points with a straight line, you can create all the colors between them by mixing the two colors in the right proportions. If you choose 3 points, then by mixing the colors at the corners, you can have all the colors within the triangle. And this triangle, this is what we call the color gamut. Wow, this is fantastic, so let's pick these as the corners of the triangle and we will cover as much color as we could from this chromaticity diagram. Well, there's a bit of a problem, because cameras and monitors create colors by additively mixing 3 primary colors, red, green and blue. On a camera sensor, each pixel has a red, a green or a blue filter, and this is called a Bayer pattern, and the image processor engine reconstructs the final colors from these data. On the monitor, tiny red, green and blue subpixels add up to form the color that you see, and this can be beautifully seen when you have raindrops on the LCD of your camera. And here's the twist. In real life, we cannot produce pure red or pure green or pure blue color. So the corners of this triangle have to be pulled in a little bit. And that's why in 1996, HP and Microsoft introduced sRGB or standard RGB color space to make colors consistent on the internet. They said, let's pick this one as primary red, this one as primary green, and this one as primary blue, and let's only use those colors that we can additively mix from these corners, from these primaries. And this is the sRGB color space. This is the color space that all of the devices recognize and usually display it quite well. Although often cheap monitors will say, oh, we cover 100% sRGB, but in real life they just cover like 80 or 90%, so be careful with that. And most applications assume by default that your photo is in sRGB. Then in 1998 came Adobe and they introduced the Adobe RGB color space. As you can see in the reds, oranges and pink colors, especially in the skin tones, Adobe RGB is practically identical to sRGB color space, but it covers more saturated greens and deeper blue colors. They did this mainly because printers work very differently. They subtract color from white using inks. This is the CMYK technology, and many printer color profiles slightly extend beyond sRGB, and Adobe RGB was designed to better encompass those colors. I guess back then they had more engineers working on real stuff and less marketing people forcing customers into submission. Subscription. I am 100% sure that when you look at these diagrams, you have the same thought as I have. What about all the colors that are not within the triangle? What about all these greens? Will we not be able to show them? Will we not be able to capture them? What if we are in a beautiful forest and there is lush green vegetation? Won't I be able to show it to my viewers? Sadly, yes, we indeed cut off a lot of colors. But it's not that big of a problem. First of all, this CIE chromaticity diagram is skewed to the green colors. Not half of the colors are green. Fun fact, the human eye is most sensitive in green light. Second, in nature, it's extremely rare to encounter a perfectly pure monochromatic light sources. So a light source that only emits in one wavelength. Apart from lasers and sodium lamps, almost everything we see is a mixture of different wavelengths. So in practice, we live inside this area. And most importantly, let's not forget that we just don't have the technology to display these colors outside of the triangle. So even the high-end monitors only slightly exceed the Adobe RGB color space. So if Adobe RGB covers more colors, why don't we just use that? Well, let's go through all the scenarios that we photographers encounter. So the first case is that you're shooting in RAW. I was quite surprised to know as I was researching for this video that RAW files don't have a color space. They just don't. There's no color space of a RAW file. So whatever you set in the camera's menu as color space doesn't actually matter. When you import your RAW files into Lightroom, the image is processed internally in a very large 16-bit ProPhoto RGB color space. But this color space covers a lot of imaginary colors that your eyes cannot see, and this color space is only used for mathematical calculations. Only when you are exporting your RAW photos into JPEGs or TIFFs, that's when it matters what color space you select. If you're sending your images to a print lab, always check their websites what color space they are asking for. But most of the time we are not printing our images, we are sharing them on social media or sending them out to our clients. And this is where all the problems start. Here on my screen I have an sRGB and an Adobe RGB JPEG photo, and as you can see they look completely the same. Because just like most computers, the MacBook converts the sRGB and the Adobe RGB into its display's own color profile, and that's why you will see the exact same colors on both photos. But if they look similar on the screen, what's the problem with Adobe RGB? Here comes the scary part. If I send this Adobe RGB JPEG photo onto my phone, it looks really good on my phone. But if I send the Adobe RGB photo from my phone through Messenger and I open that file on my MacBook, I have this washed out colors. Here it is. The colors are less vibrant. It looks just washed out. So you may send your photos in Adobe RGB to your client via Messenger, and they will get these washed out colors. Here is another example. You can see that the colors are just less vibrant. All that life just seems to leave the photo once it's converted. What happens here, that this is still an Adobe RGB photo, is just for some reason Messenger stripped the information and it displays the file as an sRGB photo, and that makes the colors look washed out. So even in 2026, there are still devices that ignore embedded color profiles and assume that everything is RGB. And in that case, Adobe RGB will look horribly washed out. And you can avoid these terrible colors by sending the images through the web in sRGB color space. There won't be any color loss. You will not notice anything and they will not notice anything. Case number 2, you shoot in JPEG only and you set it to Adobe RGB. You are probably still editing your photos in Lightroom or such, and in this case you can convert the Adobe RGB profile to sRGB when you are exporting the photos. No colors will be lost because Lightroom does the conversion for you. Case number 3, you are shooting in JPEG only and you set sRGB as color space. This is what I usually do, by the way. Since sRGB is a smaller color space, it doesn't make any sense to convert these photos into Adobe RGB color space, so please don't do that. But if you stay in sRGB, you can be 100% sure that your client sees the exact same photo as you see. But all this, what I've said, maybe goes into the trash because you are very careful with the color management, white balance, and the colors are absolutely rendered perfectly. You send it over to your client in sRGB, so he or she should see the exact same photo. But before they upload it to Instagram, they slap an ugly ass green colored sepia filter. This happened to me once and I'm still have to get over it. Tell me in the comments, have you had anything similar happen to you? Now let's see how you can check what your prints are going to look like before you actually print them. Before I show this process in Adobe Lightroom Classic, you have to know that you will never ever be able to perfectly emulate a print on a computer screen, because a computer screen is always backlit, whereas a print like this galaxy collage I made is always reflecting whatever light is hitting the surface. So it works in a completely different way. So what I'm going to show here is just an approximation, and it only works if you have a color calibrated monitor. I am now in Adobe Lightroom Classic on the Develop module, and here's a raw photo I took with the Nikon Z8. And now comes the key part. I press S on the keyboard or click here soft proofing, and Lightroom jumps into the soft proofing mode. And here under the profile, I can select the proper ICC profile. So each printer and paper combination has its own ICC profile. Basically, these are separate color spaces. Let's have this one. It's Canon Pro. It is an inkjet printer, and this paper type, this is the ICC profile. And I can also click this simulate paper and ink. So Lightroom is going to simulate the effect of the paper. And here comes the interesting part. If I click on this button here, Lightroom shows us with red which are those colors that are outside of the color gamut of the ICC profile. So something needs to be done with these colors, and this is what this intent panel is for. I'm going to turn this off. If I choose this relative intent, then this means that the colors outside of the gamut will be pushed to the closest colors within the gamut. So this method will not change any of the colors that are within the gamut of the printer profile. However, if I choose perceptual intent, then all the colors will be transformed in a way that every color fits inside the gamut. So just because there are a few colors outside of the gamut, it changes also those colors that are inside the gamut. So basically, every color in the photo is going to change or shift just because there's a tiny amount outside of the gamut. And as you can see on this photo, my subject is completely within the gamut. So it wouldn't make sense to change these colors just because I have some greens that are outside of the color gamut of the ICC profile. So I would use relative intent. Also, let's not forget that prints tend to be somewhat darker, so it makes sense to raise the exposure up like a third of a stop. So I'm going to raise the exposure a little bit, like this. And now Lightroom is warning me, do I want Lightroom to make a separate proof copy, which would only exist for the purpose of printing? And I would say yes, and I can choose make this as a proof or create a proof copy. Let's do that. And now I can send this photo to the professional print lab. If you found this video useful, please hit the like button and also tell me in the comments if you have any questions about color space. As I was researching this topic, I still have a lot of questions, and I still feel that the more I dig myself into it, the more things I don't understand. So in summary, if you want the most colors to be captured and the ability to freely convert your photos into any color space, shoot in RAW. And for web usage, export the images in sRGB color space to make sure it looks the same on all devices. But if you're printing them and the lab is specifically asking for it, send them in Adobe RGB color space. However, if you have an evenly lit scene like I have here in Lake Bled, the JPEG images are perfectly fine as long as you set the right white balance. So as long as you know what exactly you're doing and you are sure that you will convert your Adobe RGB photos into sRGB when you send them over to clients, you can, of course, set your camera into Adobe RGB. If you ever come to Budapest, Hungary, don't forget to book a night photography tour with me. I will link my website down below. See you soon, and all the best from Hungary.